Mickey has his special introducer. I'm going to ask you to give a round of applause for Brian, and then he's going to spread it on over to Mickey.
As a writer, I'm always looking for a story. You know, I've got to admit it. I'm always looking for someone that has a narrative. And Mickey provided that. But he did that in a very, very genuine way. And even though I have spent dozens and dozens of nights around a campfire with Mickey, I never knew all the stories. But there were some things he held back. He has shared those in this book. And when I read it, I was dumbstruck by how honest and pure it was. I am honored to know him and flattered to introduce him. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mickey Mahaffey.
Thank you very much, Brian, and thank you to all of y'all. This is, without saying, one of the most special nights of my life. I see people here tonight that have come out of the woodwork that I haven't seen since the old days, the early days of Asheville. So this is a really special privilege for me to have all of y'all here tonight to share this moment with me. I want to read to you a part of my book. The real turning point when I was literally 40 years old is like I'd spent 40 years in the wilderness. And I had moved into downtown Asheville. This was in 1994. This was back when Asheville was just getting started. So if you'll bear with me, I'd like to read just a little bit from chapter 2 called Abraxas. On a frigid morning in January, I sit by the window in Bean Street's coffee house, nursing a cup of coffee, staring blankly at the pages of my journal. Gusty winds sweep flurries of snow across the streets of downtown Asheville, pieces of litter flying wildly in the air. Pedestrians sidestep patches of ice, clutching their hats to their heads. A shiver rattles my body despite the warmth and coziness of the cafe. Earlier in the morning, I had ventured outdoors for the first time in 3 days. Struck down by yet another depression, I'd stayed isolated in my apartment, increasingly baffled by the Jekyll and Hyde-like nature of bipolar disorder. Only a few weeks ago, I dared to believe I'd been making significant progress towards recovery. Not to be. Forcing myself from bed at dawn, I braved the cold, hoping the icy air would shock the torpor from my body. Am I at the mercy of God's judgment because of moral failure? Am I just another baby boomer raised in the era of insatiable consumption? Or did I inherit a whacked out biochemistry exacerbated by psychic trauma? Was Thomas Didymus right? Just a dumb redneck from Hendersonville with bad blood. Whatever the cause, am I cursed for life? I'd asked myself the questions in the stillness of the cold dawn, and now I record them in my journal. But I have no words to fill in the blanks. I have no clue as to how to proceed with my life with these debilities. The thought of throwing myself to the mercy of the welfare system sickens me. Without insurance, a shoulder replacement is out of the question. I also had serious arthritis in my shoulder. My debts from treatment are staggering. My doctor says I will never recover and that I need a tropical climate or an artificial shoulder. I can't even imagine either one. I attempt to rub the weariness from my forehead and eyes, suppressing a groan of dejection. When I open my eyes, I see a man passing by the window outside the cafe. His head is wrapped in a light gray scarf. He's wearing a long olive trench coat and sandals with mismatched socks. He's dancing along the sidewalk playing a bamboo flute, projecting an aura of serenity and contentment, apparently oblivious to the blustery weather. Some of y'all can probably guess who that would be. When he passes from my view, I turn to see if any of the other patrons had seen him. Two businessmen are engrossed in conversation. A teenager sitting in the corner is fast asleep. A woman is spreading tarot cards across her table, preparing for daily readings. Apparently, no one else had seen him. Was it a vision? Am I hallucinating? His salient appearance stays in my mind the rest of the day as if one of the woman's tarot cards had magically come to life right in front of me. I'm bowled over when I see him later that evening at Vincent's Ear, a local pub in downtown Asheville. We sit back to back in the smoke-filled bar while a punk band wails and screams at the establishment. We turn in our chairs at the same moment, and he introduces himself as Camper Dave. Like he intuitively knows exactly the words I long to hear, he begins to regale me with stories of living with only the material possessions he can fit into his backpack, and the joys of living in service to others. He punctuates every avowal with a fit of laughter, like he's having the time of his life and doesn't have a care in the world. As the night draws to an end, he grabs the bamboo flute and tugs his backpack from beneath the table. As he pulls on his overcoat, he invites me to go camping. And I say sure, thinking of warm days in springtime. But he hoists his pack and exclaims, "Let's go right now." How the hell can you go camping in the middle of the night in the dead of winter? "Just walk out the door," he shouts. Its words ring in my head for the next 2 days. I can think of little else. Every morning I return to the cafe and watch for him and venture to Pritchard Park, scanning the streets at every block, listening for the sound of his flute. I awake in the night at the sound of his voice. "Just walk out the door." Such simple words, yet so full of faith and possibilities. For the first time in many months, the grayness begins to clear from my vision and my steps become lighter.